So this is our big mind map to revise GCSE Sociology Family. I'm going to kick off by looking at types of family, one of the big topics. As you can see from this chart, in modern Britain, contemporary Britain, there are untold, well, not quite untold, about 10, different types of family. Yeah? Let's start off with the most obvious. There's the nuclear family, mum, dad, kids, adult male, adult female, children. Yeah? But even within that main type of family, there's many subtypes. Some people are cohabiting, meaning they are not the parents are not married. Some are reconstituted nuclear families. There's mum, there's dad, there's kids, but usually initial dad moves out because of divorce or whatever. Mum gets a new partner, stepdad. We call that a reconstituted family. We have the conventional nuclear family. In a conventional nuclear family, dad goes out to work, housewife, and increasingly the neo-conventional nuclear family, where mum and dad both have full-time jobs. Yeah. So different types of nuclear family. We have extended families, cousins, aunts, uncles, yeah, that's what grandmas, either living in the same house, typically in the South Asian model of it, or living like in New Addington, in the same area, 5 minutes walk away from each other, and helping each other, seeing each other every day. There's lone parent families. Yeah. Increasingly today there's more same-sex families, gay families. Still very rare though, especially if you remember from the lesson, 2 gay men and adopted kids, although very famous from the mass media, is extremely, exceptionally rare. Much more common gay household is 2 women with children from previous relationships. We have polygamy, which is more than one husband or wife. There's polygyny, which is 1 man, many wives. Polyandry, 1 wife, many husbands. These are extremely rare in Britain, mostly because they're illegal. We have empty nest families, where you have a mum and a dad and their kids have grown up and left home. They have a large house, larger house. The nest is empty. There's the beanpole family. If everybody has less kids, a family tree, when you draw it, looks long and thin, more like a beanpole rather than a big bush. If everybody has 5 kids, 6 kids, you get a tree-shaped diagram, with the beanpole long and thin, 1 or 2 kids each. You've got to understand what a household is. A person living at address is a household. 5 people sharing a house, a university, or a household. Yeah. People sharing the same address, household. And then there are alternatives to families. Yeah. The main one we look at is the kibbutz in Israel. A group of people go and live in the desert, and to try and make the desert bloom, they put all their kids in a big central school so mum and dads can both work full-time on the land. Yeah? There's also communes, the hippies, especially in the 60s. Now, none of these are right or wrong. They exist at different times and places because they work. And if they don't work, they stop working. Yeah? So what type of family is the best? None of them. Moving on. Excuse me, yeah. Moving on. Primary socialisation is the main function of family, yeah? Families have functions, the job it does. Yeah? And primary socialisation is always the main one. It's the main one. It teaches you how to exist within your culture. Most famously, it teaches our gender roles, how men and women should behave. We mostly learn this from our families. Yeah? Yeah, this is what's called the consensus approach to families. There's also what we call the loss of function debate. Different cultures at different times have the families do all of these tasks. What differs is the extent of responsibility. So today, families definitely do this. In the past, families did all these things here. They were your health service. They were your protection, your armed forces. They were your criminal justice system, the police and the courts and prisons. They were your education system, and they looked after your basic survival needs. These days we have the state to do a lot more of these things. But think about it, the family does still do a lot of these things. Teach you things, polices you, protects you, looks after you when you're sick. So it's called the loss of function debate. I mean, it doesn't mean it's gone altogether, it means it's less than it was. Okay, contemporary developments. So gender roles, how men and women should behave. I'm going to explain in the neo-conventional family. So about 30 years ago, sociologists started to notice the neo-conventional family. How men and women both having full-time jobs. And then they thought, well, how is that affecting what's going on in the home? And there were two distinct theories on this. Functionalists came up with the symmetrical family theory. Husband and the wife both equally sharing the domestic duties. They're doing the cooking, the cleaning, the childcare. Definitely a big part of what we call functionalist sociology. We look at consensus, people agreeing, and social stability. Yeah? Remember, functionalists see the world as the intricate piece of clockwork, everyone doing what they should do and everything working perfectly. Feminists, however, said, no, this is not true. And a woman called Anne Oakley, Professor Oakley, came up with the idea of the dual burden. And she said, no, what's happening in these neo-conventional families is that the woman still does bulk of the domestic duties. She plays more conjugal roles around the home. She does the cooking, the cleaning, the childcare. She has two jobs. She has a full-time paid job and most of the domestic duties at home. It's called the dual burden. It then was into the triple shift, all the emotional work as well. Yeah? Now, which is true? Well, there's some truth in both of them. Look in the working class, definitely. More northern, ethnic minorities, you definitely see more of this. Look towards the middle class, especially people who went to university in the south of England, you might see more of this. So it's not this is right, this is wrong. As usual in sociology, it's a bit of both. Okay, ethnicity and family. How do different ethnic groups structure their families? So we have, for example, in the Afro-Caribbean community, we have lots and lots of what's called matrifocal families. Long parent families, mum's in charge. Matrifocal, mother. Yeah? 70% of Afro-Caribbean people live in a matrifocal long parent family. But it might actually be, upon second study, a bit more of an extended family in disguise. These black women who have their kids and their partner's not around actually are not really lone parents. They have their mothers and their sisters and their family to help them. So it's a bit of a mistake, we think, to think that Afro-Caribbean people are all lone parent families. It's more of an extended family in disguise. Yeah. South Asia, by South Asia we mean Asian, we mean Indian, Pakistani, Bengali. Yeah? Lots of them live in extended families in the same home, but it's quite similar in some ways to the white working class in places like New Addington that also live in extended families, just not in the same house. They live in New Addington, families tend to live within 5 minutes walk of each other. But it's still an extended family because they see each other a lot, they help each other out with childcare and jobs. Yeah? A long parent family, last point to make, it makes parenting more difficult, not necessarily worse for kids. The research shows a long parent families, it's the quality of the parenting, not the number. Cohabitation, meaning living together without being married. It's gone up a lot in the last 50 years. As the social stigma has gone down, cohabitation has gone up. Now the question is it a prelude? Is it an alternative? A prelude is something you do before you get married. And what we think is, for people who are cohabiting between these ages, they're doing it before they decide to get married or not. So people then get together, they live together for a couple of years, and then they either get married or they break up, if they're this age. However, if people are cohabiting between these ages, they seem to be doing it as an alternative. They're living together instead of getting married, and they have no intention of getting married. Finally, marital breakdown, divorce. Yeah? It's certainly gone up. 100 years ago, it was in the low hundreds per year. In the year 2000, it was about 150,000 people got divorced per year. So why the massive rise in divorce? Yeah. There's lots and lots of reasons. There's a separate lesson on this on the channel. But basically, the stats lie. Yeah. It's gone up because, for lots of reasons, the divorce is much easier, it's much cheaper. Some people in the past used to separate instead of getting divorced. Some people used to stay with their spouses even though they hated them. It's called an empty shell marriage. So this, it wasn't that 100 years ago everyone was happy and now they're miserable. It's more that the laws changed, the culture's changed. In particular, when we say cultural changes, people's expectations of marriage have changed. In particular, women's attitudes have changed. Women have much less likely to put up with a lot of rubbish from men. In particular, we think women are less likely to put up with the dual burden. So if they have the dual burden, the husband who refused doing housework, they're more likely to get a divorce because divorce is now much easier and there's much less social stigma.